And I'm checking if we are live. So let's just see. Yes, we are live. So everyone, welcome to Empowered Kids TV Fireside Talks. I am so excited to have you here. This is the place where parents come and take their capes off, feel surrounded by a loving, supportive, non-judgmental community, and get support from leading conscious parenting coaches each and every week. Today, we have an amazing topic and as well an amazing coach. So we're talking all about why kids lie and how your response can help or hurt them. And our amazing guest today is Jeanette Hargreaves. Jeanette is a speaker, a parenting coach who is passionate about helping moms how to stop losing their temper. And she acknowledges that she would lose her cool each and every day in the past. She's the author of The Day I Threw Banana Bread and Almost Went to Jail, true stories about how I used to lose my temper and how I learned to stop. Jeanette has been coaching parents to become calmer and more confident leaders within their family for years, and I'm so excited to have her on board. Welcome to Fireside Talks.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm so excited to be here.
First of all, I know I said I would just dive in, but the title of your book is just so awesome. It's just like I read it and I feel like I can see myself in the title. So tell us a little bit about that day when you threw banana bread.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I have my book here. You can see I'm throwing banana bread on the cover. My little dog is hoping she'll get a little piece of that bread. You see that? Yeah, it's funny. You might think that I threw banana bread at my kids or even at my husband. But on that day, I was so angry at my own dad. And as an adult, I threw banana bread at him. Now, this banana bread was his recipe. And his recipe, Nicole, has 7 bananas in it. So it packs a wallop. This is some dense bread. And let me tell you, I did get in really big trouble for it because my dad was an old man and kind of fragile. But I'm not going to tell you how I got in trouble. Your audience is going to have to read the book to find out.
That's all right. I love it. Okay, I'm going to give you the room to kind of explore our topic tonight because I think lying in families is one of the things that can really trip families up. I've been on this journey for years. And still, I have to remind myself it's a sign of something else and not to let it push me as it's a personal attack. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say and how you're going to explore the topic with us tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'm really excited about this topic too. Actually, chapter 24 of my book is called When Your Kids Lie. So it's just one of my favorite topics. One reason is because when I was a kid, I lied to my parents for an entire year. Here's what happened. My brother and I were fighting. We broke a window. And I was so scared that I was going to get in trouble. So I put a piece of paper up on the window. I made it into a little sign, put some artwork on it, taped it up there, and I didn't tell my parents. I was so scared. And about a year later, my dad just happened to notice and he said, "Oh, Jenny, that window's broken. Your window's broken." And I took such a deep breath and I was afraid something was going to happen. And I was lucky because that day he didn't get mad at me. He didn't yell. He didn't hit me. He used to spank me with his work boot. And that day it didn't happen. I told him that I didn't know how it was broken. So I continued to lie to him because I was still afraid that if I told him I was responsible or that me and my brother were responsible for that window, we would get in trouble. So how do you create a house where kids tell the truth? Because every parent I've ever talked to has values like honesty, respect, and dignity. They want to raise kids who tell the truth. So how do you do it? Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but first I want to talk about how you don't do it. You have a house where kids get in trouble. Like my house, the one that I grew up in, and the one that I had when my kids were small. So this may seem really wild. If you were raised in a house where you got in trouble and you're raising your kids in such a way where they get in trouble for some things, how can you create a house where no one ever gets in trouble? Because you see, when I used to lie, if the lie was discovered, I would get in trouble for the lying, and I would also get in trouble for whatever happened. I would lie not only because I was scared of getting in trouble, but because sometimes I was worried that my parents wouldn't love me anymore. Maybe they'd reject me. I'd also lie because sometimes I was sad. I was disappointed in myself, and I knew better. I wish I had done better, and I was so mad at myself. I didn't want to tell the truth. Some of your kids might lie because they like to be sneaky, and that's okay. Well, we're going to talk about how to address that too. You know, everyone likes to be sneaky sometimes, but let's not get in trouble for doing it. All right, so here's how you can create a house where no one gets in trouble. You're going to connect. This is a helpful way to respond to a lie. So let's say my little girl, she used to lie to me all the time. The way I used to respond is I used to yell, I used to spank her, I would get angry for the lie, I would get angry at her for whatever she had done and whatever she was lying about. But when I decided to stop, here's what I would say. Sweetheart, you're lying to me. I know you're lying because you probably feel scared that you're going to get in trouble. I know I used to yell and get so mad at you, sweetheart, when you used to lie. I'm sorry about that. We're not doing that anymore. I used to talk about our family values. So right there, I talked about first her feelings, which is that she probably feels scared. And now I'm going to talk about our family values. So I'll say, sweetheart, in our family, we care about honesty and openness and respect and truthfulness. So I want to be the kind of mom, I want this house to feel like a safe place where you can tell the truth. And let me tell you, when my daughter and I worked on making that transition, it was something we did together because she had a habit of lying and I had the habit of yelling at her when she lied. So it was a habit we broke together, and I started with me as the adult. That's what conscious parents do, right? We're leaders. We set the example. We say what our values are, and we do our best to live by them, to show our kids how to be, how to behave. And so my daughter, she would lie to me, and I would say, sweetheart, I know you've lied to me. You used to get in trouble for that all the time. We're not doing that anymore. Next time, please try and tell me the truth. Friends, I did that 40 times. 40 times she lied to me. And 40 times I told her, sweetheart, you used to get in trouble for lying, and you're not going to get in trouble for that anymore. This is the kind of, excuse me, the kind of dedication and discipline, self-discipline that it takes in order to break this kind of habit in yourself and in your family. And let me tell you, the first time she came to me and told me the truth about something that she felt bad about, oh goodness, we celebrated that moment. I said, sweetheart, you told me the truth. This is our family values, and you're not going to get in trouble. Whatever you've done, we're going to work on this, problem solve, and figure it out. I'm going to talk more about this connect technique, but I want to take a moment and say that if you are watching this video, I consider you a leader. And if you can learn these skills, it's going to impact not only your family, but your community, your neighborhood. If you're a churchgoer, it's going to impact your church community. Learning these skills are going to help you as a leader and help you make even more positive ripple effects in your community. So let's go back to the connect technique, and I'm going to help you connect with yourself for a moment. Step one in the connect technique that I didn't talk about before is remaining calm or maintaining your composure. Because if you grew up with a dad like mine, he did not maintain his composure for things that I used to get in trouble in, like lying or breaking a window or hitting my brother. So this is a simple skill that you practice as a parent and you teach to your children. It's how to calm down. And what I'm going to suggest is that you use yawning. Yes, I said yawning. Yawning is something that we naturally do when we're tired, but it's a very simple technique to tell your body and mind, hey, it's time to calm down. So when you feel that anger about the lie bubbling up in you, notice and say, wait a minute, Jeanette told me, number one, calm down. So one thing you can do is the yawn, and I'm going to go ahead and take you through this yawn. You open your mouth wide, and especially that space at the back of your throat. If you're yawning, that's a good thing. Yawning is contagious. It can help your whole family calm down. All right, so you open up that back of your throat, you wiggle your neck, you can even massage your scalp. There's all kinds of nerve endings you're touching on, whatever feels good. You want to touch it, wiggle, you can stretch. And there's this perfect moment in a yawn where sometimes you're not getting a full breath and you wait. You wait for that moment. And what's happening is there's this stomach or this muscle down near your stomach between your ribs and your gut that's waiting to release. And your body will tell you when it's time to take a really deep breath. You might even notice that when you're holding your child or when you're laying next to them and they're falling asleep, they have this really deep sigh moment where they go, their whole body is calming down. Now continue that yawn all the way down through your hips and legs. Wiggle it down to your feet and toes and feel what your body feels like now. This is an emotionally intelligent thing that you can do and that you've done now with me if you've chosen to yawn with me today. You might have come into this podcast feeling a little stressed out or like freaked out. What do I do when my kid's lying? Oh my gosh, I'm so mad. My kid's a liar. And now simply by taking a few deep breaths and yawning, you've changed your emotional state. You've changed your body and your mind. Feel what that feels like to feel relaxed and calm, composed. When your mind and body is like this, your mind's going to think much better. You're going to be much better at problem solving when your child comes to you with a problem. You're going to be much better better at problem solving when your child comes to you and lies? So in the connect technique, step 1 is calm down. You can yawn on purpose. Step 2, connect with feelings. I talked about that, connecting with the feelings of my daughter, like, you're scared, sweetheart. But now let's connect with your feelings. What do you care about? How do you feel when your child lies? I used to feel very angry, and I would feel that anger in my jaw. Sometimes my fists and my chest would feel tight. But now when my child lies to me, I'm also aware that I don't really feel anger anymore, but I feel sadness. I feel sad that maybe they feel scared, or maybe they feel disappointed in themselves. So I feel sad as a parent. I also feel sad because I want to have a good relationship with my child. And I also don't want them to feel like they have to lie to me. I want them to be able to come to me and tell the truth. I want to help them be successful. So I feel sad about it. That's step 2, is connecting with your feelings. So how do you feel when your child lies to you? Think about that for a moment. Okay, now let's talk about step 3. Step 3 is connecting with your values. So what do you care about? Underneath those feelings of anger or sadness, you have deep values that you want to live by. For example, maybe you value your child. I know you value your child. You want them to have a good, happy, healthy life. You value yourself. You value the relationship between you. You have big, broad values like respect, honor, dignity, honesty, truth, love, and safety. So once you figure out what your values are, what you care about, then that's where you act from. You don't necessarily act from your feelings, right? Because your feelings can lead you astray from time to time. For example, when I used to get furious at my daughter's lying, I would let that fury just take over and spank her and yell at her. And that was not helpful. That was hurtful. It's hurtful to me. It's hurtful to her, our whole family, and our relationships. What is helpful when I identify those values under the feelings and live by them. So what I've done is just take you through this 3-step technique I call connect. And this is what you can do in your family that's helpful instead of the normal hurtful reaction to lying. So step 1, connect. Step 1 is calm down or maintain your composure. You can do some yawn breaths to do that. Step 2 is, I just saw a note come across, but it's not up anymore. Nicole, if you put something up there for me, put it up so I can read it again.
Okay, I'm just writing out your tips.
Okay, it's okay. So step 1 is calm down. Step 2 is connect with feelings. And step 3 is connect with values. Once you've done that, then you can problem solve together as a family. When you're problem solving, you're avoiding rewards and punishments altogether. This is a house where no one gets in trouble, and guess what? No one gets rewards either. So my little girl's not going to get a candy for telling me the truth. I might connect with my feelings when she tells me the truth, though. I might say, oh, sweetheart, my heart is singing because I love you and we love each other and we're living into our values of respect and truth. I know these words sound strange, but you can speak this way in your family. It takes practice. Really, it feels sort of like speaking a foreign language for maybe 3 months or so, but eventually it's really cool. You get to hear it reflected back because your own family members will start to use it. Even my husband now will use it sometimes with me or the kids. I've seen members of my community and extended members of my family also begin to use this language in their families. I think that's it, Nicole. In general, what we talked about is why kids lie, what a hurtful response can look like, and what a helpful response can look like. You think we covered it?
I think we've covered it. And I'll tell you what I loved about it, really. Well, there's lots of bits. But the first thing I loved was that you said you had to say the same thing 40 times. Because sometimes as parents, we think, well, I've already told you. I've told you once. You're not going to get in trouble. Why are you still lying? And what I noticed in my own family was that I had to show up in that commitment that I wasn't going to get angry if my kids felt like they needed to lie over and over for them to move through the range of emotions. So it was, I'm going to lie because I'm scared I'll get in trouble. Like that was the first one. And I had to stand firm. You're not going to get in trouble until we move past that. And then it was, I might disappoint her. And I think in some ways we're still working through the disappointment. So maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, we had come back from a trip and we had suitcases to and that sounds crazy in the middle of COVID, come back for a trip, but it was just a weekend away. And we had suitcases to unpack, and I was like, unpack your suitcases. And my kids unpacked their suitcases on the floor of their bedroom, right? I was like, what's going on? I'm like, you need to pack your stuff away. So I reminded both of them, go pack. And they both came out, yeah, we've done it. And then at nighttime, I went to tuck them into bed, and there's clothes all over the floor. And I'm like, I thought you said you packed away. Now, even then, that was my, I know I should not have said that moment, right? Like as it came out my mouth, I was like, I could take it back. And then I made light of it until the next day. And then the next day we had a conversation, and it was, remember, we're on the same team. So if you feel like she's going to be disappointed that I didn't do it, and I really don't want to do it because I don't feel like doing it, come back and say, you know what? I know you want me to put the clothes away, but I really don't feel like packing them away. Is there another option? Is there an option we can come up with? Because it might have been a place that he can put the clothes until he was ready to fold them the next day. And he said to me, I said it to you and you didn't listen. And I had to sit with that. And I had to say, you know what? He probably is right. He probably said, I don't feel like it. But I was probably, you need to pick them up. I know you don't feel like it, but you need to pick them up without giving him another option. And so sometimes as parents, without realizing it, we push our kids into a corner where they feel like, well, there's no other option to get out here but to lie. And I had to hold my hand up this week to recognize that I'm still on that journey of letting go of those spaces.
That is amazing. Yes. Yes to all of it. And so here's what I would do if my child told me, Mama, I tried to tell you. That's my big humility pill. And I say, oh gosh, sweetheart. And I might not even remember it because I might not have actually heard them say, I don't feel like it. Right. But I say, I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm working on hearing you better.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll say, things fall off my radar or I don't hear you. And what I want you to do is come up to me and like touch me and say, Mama, like look me in the eyes and say, Mom, I don't I'm tempted to lie to you because you're not hearing me. I need a break right now, and I want to put my clothes away later. And I might get myself out of my own corner and be like, oh, hello there.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it, right? But all of this takes such thoughtfulness and slowing down and paying attention to what's going on with ourselves and our family.
Absolutely. And I think the slowing down is important. And for me, what I think really helps me is, so we have different mantras in our family, but we can work anything out together. I would say is probably our biggest mantra. And I had to turn that into more than just words by living it. Like I had to be willing to show up for my kids every day. And in the moments where I would be upset and I would want to yell and I was feeling triggered, I had to go and do my own work so that I showed up as the teammate. Like I showed up as the person ready to say, okay, that's the problem. We're the team. How do we tackle the problem? And lying is no different.
That's right. Yeah. And you're just really showing your values, Nicole, by what you're saying. You care about the success of your family and the success of your children. And by doing that, you are creating children who can tackle any problem in their own lives. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. Yes. God willing, right? Yeah.
I want to dive a little deeper. We've got some comments coming in. So Bill has joined us and he was saying he feels relaxed just doing the yawning technique and he can't wait to put it into practice.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? It's so simple and something you can do with intention. So, sorry, what's the person's name who came in?
Bill?
Belle.
Yeah.
Belle, write yawn on purpose on a piece of paper and stick it on your fridge, stick it on your bathroom mirror so that you can remember to do this, to use the yawn.
You know what I love about the yawn technique, and I never heard it anywhere else. I never thought about it before. Because it's contagious. Like I could take 3 deep breaths and I can get calm, but it takes a while for my energy to then influence the energy of the room, right? But if I, in some instance, kind of influence everybody to take a deep breath by yawning, that just makes everybody else calm down at the same time. And I love that.
Yes, absolutely. You know what's really interesting is stress is contagious. And that's actually a survival mechanism. Like if a neighbor is in a crisis and they come over to knock on my door, it's going to put me in crisis mode too to help them, right? So it helps us help each other. But a lot of times that stress being contagious is not so helpful anymore because there really aren't a lot of true crises for families, but we still have this response in us. So something we can do is notice when we're having that kind of, is this a crisis? Oh, wait a minute. It's not a crisis. My kid's just lying to me about unpacking their suitcase. So yeah, now I'm going to do something with intention to help myself calm down and maybe my own child, because they might be a little stressed out and scared too, right? That, oh, mom found out and I know that family's so important to her, It's okay, sweetheart. Let's take a breath together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to push and talk a little bit more on staying calm bit, because I think this is probably the area for most families, right? That area of how do we manage our emotions? And especially as the parents, how do we model how we manage our emotions in a healthy way? I think a lot of the times, especially in the family environments where I grew up, it was okay for the adult to be explosive. So if the adult was yelling and the adult was angry, that was okay. But as a child, don't you dare be angry. Like, who are you angry at? Like it was just not allowed, right? And so it's, for me, I think a lot of parents, because they grew up in that space where they had to stuff how they feel in, it's really difficult to be able to express that emotion in the moment in a healthy way, or even to create the gap that allows them to take the space to calm down. So let's talk about that bit for a minute. If I'm in a habit of just reacting, how do I bring presence enough to recognize that I need that space to calm down, to even take the yawn?
That's right. Well, very first, I want you to know that yelling is a habit that can be broken. Number one, I broke it in my family, Nicole. Let me tell you, yelling, screaming, explosiveness, hitting, it was in my tool belt as a mom. It was in my dad's tool belt, my grandfather's tool belt. It is not in my tool belt anymore as a mom. So that's the very first thing, is to recognize it as a habit, something you inherited from your family. Step two is to learn how to feel those feelings in healthy ways. So I was raised in a family where if you said, I got angry, that meant that you exploded. So anger and upset meant the same thing. But what I've learned in this journey is that anger and upset do not have to be the same thing. Anger is a very powerful emotion, and you can use it to help yourself, to help your family, and you can use all of that energy for good. I can tell you, people ask me, what motivates you? Where do you get all this energy to do your business? And Nicole, I use the power of anger. I use all that energy to be helpful now. Yeah. And of course, the third thing, there's another three. I guess I have three, right? So identify it as a habit, learn how to feel your feelings in healthy ways, and find your mentors. Because it really does take mentors. I didn't know anyone who was not in a yelling family. I had to find people who were not in yelling families to help me.
So your audio broke up a little bit. I want you to say those three things again, because I think they're so powerful for parents to hear.
The three things on how to break the yelling habit?
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, identify the yelling as a habit you inherited in your family. And that is a habit that can be broken. Just like smoking cigarettes, it's a habit that you have and your family kind of supports it. I go into details about that in my book, but your family kind of supports the yelling habit. Even if they're not yelling, you're all working together to have this yelling thing happen because you get a rush from it. All right. You can break that whole habit. Number two, learn how to feel your feelings in healthy ways. You can feel feelings, even anger and stress, in healthy ways. And yes, one of the first steps is to learn how to feel that anger or stress bubbling up in your body, like I talked about earlier, and have that space, like you mentioned, Nicole, where you consciously make a choice to do something different. And what I suggested was you yawn. All right. So step three is you find your mentors. You need to find leaders and teachers who are not yelling in their families and learn from them.
I love it. I think for me especially, so we're currently launching a program called the Family Blueprint, and it's about how do you plan for your family. In a lot of ways, we plan our finances and we plan our careers and we plan for businesses, but there's zero plan for a family. We just kind of have the same year over and over and over. And what I realized was that for a lot of families, they can even create a vision of what they wanted because they never saw their ideal family anywhere. It just felt like something made up, right? A little piece of this from that TV show and a little piece of that, but there's no physical family where we had seen, because we have all this dysfunction around us. And I think it's the same when you zone in on any one habit that you want to change. And I love that you say go find a mentor, because there is going to be somebody, even if they don't have the whole piece of your vision, they got one bit. And if they can help you make that one step, and then you get somebody else to help you make the next step, you'll be on your way and soon you'll be running. And it's important, I think, to recognize that, especially when it comes to changing a habit, You need to give yourself that support of somebody else being your champion, somebody else showing you the way. Because it's difficult to just say, I'm going to stay in my box with all of the generational patterns that I have and I bring with me up until this point and magically change it on your own.
That's exactly right. If you came from a yelling family, you're in a yelling family, it's likely that most of the people in your circles are also in yelling families.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've talked with thousands of people now. And only about 10% of the population, Nicole, only about 10% right now are in families that are handling their feelings in healthy ways, and they've stopped yelling, or maybe they haven't ever yelled, or I don't know how many generations now, maybe they've figured it out and they've been healthy that long. So that means that there's right now about 80% of the population, at least in America, they're yelling and they're happy with it. But let me tell you something also that research says, sadly, yelling is as harmful psychologically as hitting, is what we found out. So if you've been happily yelling in your family, let that be a little bit of inspiration for you to consider breaking this habit. And I mentioned the 10% and the 80%. Well, then there's that magic 10% in between, right? And guess who they are? Those are the people who are on this journey. They're finding their mentors, they're breaking the habit, and they're on their way to being that 10% that's free.
Beautiful. Ooh, let's just stretch that 10% a little bigger.
Yes, let's stretch it.
You know what? When you were describing sort of the patterns, I got a few feelings came up when you talked about the possibility of families that didn't have yelling for generations. My first thing was, what a gift for children to just kind of be in that space. And then when you talked about the impact of yelling versus hitting, I remembered my own childhood experience. So my dad was always against hitting. So we didn't grow up in a family that hit, but I grew up in a village and a community and a country where hitting was the norm. Hitting was everywhere. And so I had a child's view of hitting, and I had a child's view of being yelled at and not instead of being spanked. And I think there's obviously the physical element to hitting, but even as a child, I could see that sometimes the bruises that are left by words could stay a lot longer than some of the physical bruises. And that's not no invitation to hit your kids, because like that's just a no-no. But it's just a wake-up call that the things you say also matters. And today I had a conversation with a gentleman. We were working on a project together, and he made a mistake in the project. And so I went back to him and I said, was this completed or is there an error? And he looked at it and he wrote back and he said, I'm so sorry, stupid, and his name. And all I could think of was how much times that might have been repeated to him as a child, so that now as an adult, that's his inner voice. And so obviously my response back to him was compassionate, and please don't say that to yourself. We're all human, we make mistakes. But the notion that even as an adult, you could be having that pattern repeated is really important for parents to get, that words can lift you up or they can pull you down.
Absolutely. You know, as an adult, Nicole, I used to lie in bed at night having difficulty going to sleep because I was replaying all of these old mistakes in my head and beating myself up. And I just thought that's what everyone did. But that's how I was raised. I was raised to always feel bad about myself, and my mistakes were always amplified instead of reconciled. And yes. So going through this process, you're going to not only learn how to reconcile with your child, but you're going to learn how to reconcile with yourself and stop beating yourself up for your own mistakes in the past, present, and future.
What a beautiful place for us to wrap up. Jeanette, thank you so much for joining us. This was a really amazing conversation.
Thank you, Nicole. Yes, it was. It's just my honor to be connected with you. Fireside Talks and Empowered Kids TV. I want everyone to know about what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, honey.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Remember, if this is your first time joining us, be sure to subscribe to the community. You can find us everywhere. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, at Empowered Kids TV, or you can go directly to our website where we have a whole host of resources at empoweredkidstv.com. Until next time, remember, you're just one connection away. With love and gratitude, Empowerers.